preparing to go live.
Are you in Charlotte?
No, I'm in Burbank.
Oh, you're in LA. Why do I think you're in Charlotte? I think, do you have friends in Charlotte?
Oh, you know my friend John
Yeah.
Burton.
Burton. Yes, yes.
Yes, we went to. Well, he came out here. We went to seminary together.
Oh, you went to Fuller?
Yes.
No, I'm a student at Fuller.
Curly?
Yeah, I took one class and then I started working, and
Oh,
I haven't been back.
what are you studying? I mean, maybe that's a part of our.
Do you have friends in Charlotte? Like Masters of Theology.
Nice. So you're getting an MAT, just a flat MAT, or are you doing the
At the rate I'm going, I'm doing a certificate program.
Okay. Hey, you got 10 years to finish that thing.
We'll see. I've been a little busy.
Okay. How exciting. Oh, well, now I have to ask you about Fuller.
Do these headphones sound better
I know.
or
The
not?
last person didn't have headphones. So, it does not sound any better. So you can take those off.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
It sounds the same. Yep. All right. Well, let me, yes, I think the chat's live. Okay, great. Well, then we're going to get started. And I'll keep an eye over here. Okay, great. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to check us out. This is Mom-Versations. Welcome. Hi, my name is Aretha Scruggs. This is Mom-Versations. This is a show where we hear real stories of incredible moms making an impact on our world, from women in entertainment to women in entrepreneurial things and more. Join the Mom-Versations to learn how to live and thrive in motherhood and purpose. So that's exactly what we're talking about today. I am so honored to have our first guest, or our second guest. This is our second week of
Nice.
Interviews. This wonderful lady, I actually met a few weeks ago. I got the opportunity to meet briefly on this just random Zoom. We just did a Zoom and had a whole amazing conversation about what you'll hear about later. She just did the Clark sisters biopic, the First Ladies of Gospel, that debuted on Lifetime. If you haven't seen it, please go right now, find it, and go and check it out, because it's an amazing experience. Whether you grew up in the Black church and the gospel world or not, it is a great story of women who overcame and are still overcoming and making an impact on our world. So we are here talking with the amazing directress. Do they say that? The amazing director of the film. But let me tell you a little bit about her. This is Christine Swanson. Just a few little tidbits. Christine Swanson is a Detroit native. She is a multi-award winning filmmaker. She went to the NYU Tisch School of the Arts, and she is what CNN identified as one of the most promising filmmakers to emerge from NYU's graduate film program since Martin Scorsese, since Spike Lee, and Oliver Stone. Ain't that amazing? But Christine, you can see some of her work. She's developed, written, or directed movie projects for HBO Films, Magnolia Pictures, State Street Pictures, TV One, and her own independent film company, Faith Filmworks. But you can see some of her work. She's done 2 seasons, All About You, that I saw just wrapped its 20th anniversary. All About Us and Woman Thou Art Loosed. If you've seen any of those are award-winning projects. And as I said, she also did the Love Under New Management, the Mickey Howard story. So you've seen her name. You might not have seen her because she's behind the camera, but you have seen her project. So I'm honored to be here to talk with her. Again, her most recent project was the Clark sisters story, the First Ladies of Gospel, for A&E Network. So please, 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 please give your round of applause for Christine Swanson. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so honored to have you as my second guest, but I really, for those of you, like I said, I didn't know Christine at all, but I was on this call, and as we were listening to these amazing stories of how she shot and got these different pictures for the Clark Sisters movie, she kind of mentioned that she had 4 kids. And I was like, 4 kids? how does one even do this with any kid, let alone with 4 kids? So I was just fascinated, and I said I have to get her on this show to really pick her brain. How in the world did she do this? And to hear, even I heard that little tidbit on the reunion for All About You, that you and your husband Michael Swanson, right after that, had your first child.
That's right.
So so this is like, and what that was your, well, we can go into that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just like, these are specifically the reason why I created this show, is because it's like the whole that nobody talks about. Like, everybody wants to talk about the projects and who'd you work with and where'd you go to school, and then we sort of get a quick mention of, oh, but I have kids and I'm married, and then you go, well, wait a minute. What? So so that's kind of what I want to talk about. But let's hear a little bit about you. Tell me, to get Christine talking, tell me, who are you? Where we know you're a Detroit native, but where did you go specifically, and how did you get into directing and filmmaking?
Straight out of Detroit, I went to the University of Notre Dame, and my freshman year there, Spike Lee came to talk about Do the Right Thing. And in that moment, I looked at him and I thought, people make movies for a living. I did not know that prior to that. So after Spike left, I changed my major to filmmaking, and I decided in that moment that I'm going to go to NYU Film School, and I ended up getting in, and Spike Lee ended up being my directing teacher in my last year. So just a full circle moment there, but it was there that I really honed my storytelling skills. And I had a deep conviction and passion to tell stories about us in the way that I tell stories. And that's typically with emotional and moral resonance, and with heart-wrenching stories that kind of stick with you for a while, so that's kind of like been my style. But I love being pushed and trying different things all the time. So that's kind of like how I started to become a filmmaker. And then right after undergrad, I remember I graduated from Notre Dame in the month of May, and in that July I married Michael Swanson, and Michael started to work right away for NBC in New York City, and I went to grad school at NYU, and we were just partners early on. Like, he would produce all of my short films when I was a student at NYU, and we started our own production company called Faith Filmworks in 1997, and we've been working in tandem and in partnership ever since then, overseeing like movie productions. It is what we say, we make movies and we make babies. So we've had 4 children. They're now ages 11, 14, 17, and 19. And my oldest son is a freshman at NYU Film School studying to be a director. So kind of gone full circle. I call it the family business. And we're storytellers, but we're passionate lovers of our community, and lovers of each other, Michael, me, and lovers of our family. And at no point did we ever put us and our family behind the business and the industry.
Wow.
Although many a days I wondered, like, what did we get into, and why do I have so many kids? But when you're on the other side of that, you look back at your life and you ask yourself, well, which kid would you give back? And there's not a one that I would give back. And one of the things that an elder told me one time, and it really hit home with me, was that you only regret the children you don't have. So in those times where you're thinking like, because listen, I only wanted to be a filmmaker from the minute that I saw Spike Lee.
Wow.
I never thought, oh, I want to get married, I want to have a house, I want to have kids. I'm not wired like that, but it's funny. It's like I had all those things before I truly had a career as a filmmaker. Wow. So And that's not the way that I planned it, and that's not the way that I wanted it, but that's the way that it played out. And like only looking at it in hindsight, you realize God's hand in everything. If you believe that, I believe that, I know that to be true. So it's like, okay, let me stop trying to be the God of my own life,
Come on.
and let me just be Christine, and trust God to be God.
Wow. I mean, that was already one of my questions. I'll come back to that. What does that even look like to balance? I mean, even with the Clarkson movie, I know you guys talked about that it was done mainly in Canada. What does that look like to even balance motherhood and this fledgling career?
Well, okay, let's just say that, but I've had a 20 plus year career. I just took 15 years off to primarily focus on my children. But even in those 15 years where I was raising my children, I was always a storyteller. I
Hmm.
never stopped being a storyteller. It was in those 15 years I actually wrote Woman Thou Art Loose. I was one of the co-writers that came on board and did a page one rewrite. So it was during having my children that I actually made All About Us, which was a real small, low budget independent films that we used our own money for, that starred Boris Kojo, Ruby Dee, Ryan Michelle Bathay, and Morgan Freeman. So it's like I never stopped working. What I did was the focus of my attention was probably 80% on kids, especially when they're that little. It's all consuming.
Yeah.
It's all consuming. So back then I would just say I was a part-time filmmaker, a full-time mom.
Well,
Now,
I
now
mean,
it's a little bit more balanced in a way that I'm a full-time filmmaker and a full-time mom, but my kids are older.
yeah.
You know, they're self-sufficient, they can cook, they can clean, they can drive. So it's and in fact, my kids are like, can you leave and go make a movie? Like they want me to go out there and work. So it's just the tide has shifted a little bit. And like so I can do a project and go to Canada for 2 months and work on a movie because you know they have a father who fortunately when I was in Canada he was home. Like he travels too. He's a studio executive at NBC Universal. He oversees a lot of their hit shows, but there's a certain season where he's busy and out of town and I try to be home uh if I can, but we have help. We have help, so that helps. And then I know when I was in Canada he was home primarily. So it's, and he's a very hands-on dad, and he's more of a hands-on dad than I am a hands-on mom.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
think
it's just, girl, I married a great guy, and he will say he married a great girl. And, we just try to work it out in whatever ways that we can make it work. But it helped that I stayed home with them for as long as I did, because all that initial grunt work from birth to kindergarten, I had to be here, and even as they're in middle school and high school, most of the time I'm home actually, so fortunately when I'm writing, I'm home, I'm developing, I'm home. The only time I'm away is when I'm on production and shooting, and that's for a finite time. And then I come back home, so I have a very good job that way.
what does that look like even in the hard times when it's I know that baby phase and that even 2 and 3 year old phase. I'm in that phase with my 3 year old, but what does that even look like for you? Can you give an example of how are you writing in the middle of that? Are you closing
Well,
the door? Are you, I mean, what does that look like?
it's not fun and it's not easy. My second movie, called All About Us,
Mhm.
is actually it's loosely autobiographical, and it kind of shows like a little peek into Michael and my life at that time, where I desperately wanted to flex as a director, but I was tethered to being a mom in a way that I could not escape.
Mm.
So I kind of delve into it and talk about it, and how you deal with that is just, it's a lot of angst and depression and like just overwhelming sadness, coupled with unbelievable bliss,
Right.
coupled with the most heart-filling moments of living, um, that makes you realize what's most important.
Mm.
And I don't ever recall having those kinds of moments as a director,
Mm.
but I had them constantly as a mother. And maybe God saw fit to reverse engineer my life
Mm.
in that, because when CNN said I was one of the most promising filmmakers to come out of NYU film school, when I came out of NYU film school, I came out swinging.
All right.
I did not plan on taking a 15-year hiatus, you know, not long after that article. So I say all that to say that I I know, and I only know this in hindsight,
Yes.
but I know that God reverse engineered that for me,
Mm.
because in my youth and in my ambitious kind of state, I did not know that having children was the greatest blessings that I could not ask for myself.
Mm. Wow.
And not to overly hype it now, you know, like it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of heart attachments that are real and vibrant 24/7. So it never ends. But I'm so used to that now. I don't know what I would be or do without my kids and without being a mother first, you know? And all those things that I learned being a mother in terms of the kind of um, almost superhuman patience that
Yeah.
we have to learn, or the outsized heart that we have to develop. All of that has been useful as a director.
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely. So no experience is wasted.
Yeah. Can you talk a little more about that? What does that look like in your directing? What does mothering look like?
Well, when I was working on the Clark sisters, like those girls, the wonderful women that I worked with who played the sisters,
Hmm.
they called me Maddie Moss Clark.
Oh,
Enough said. Enough said.
right.
Like, functioning as like that matriarchy, that maternal role. Like you get things done. You know how many kids you got?
One.
Right. But you know how you got to get stuff organized and worked out. So, you have a contingency plan. If this don't work out, then if he don't eat that, then give him two of these,
Yeah.
you don't want that. Just let him have his, juice, but just mix it with water. And
Right.
so we got a plan for everything.
Everything. Everything has to have a plan.
That's what directing is. And not to oversimplify directing. Okay, that's a part of directing. Is you got a plan for making movies is organized chaos.
Hmm.
Having children is
Yes.
organized chaos.
Chaos.
So it's like it doesn't matter what arena I step in. It's like I've been practicing for this job my whole life.
That's pretty awesome. Well, that brings me to my next question. What is your why? What do you feel is your purpose? Is there and maybe it's tied to my other question of how does faith inform your journey of motherhood and purpose? But what do you think is your why or your purpose?
Well, it's easy to oversimplify it and say like things like, I know my purpose in life is to tell stories, and about the African American diaspora, and maybe
Okay.
maybe that's a part of it. That's not the gist of it. The gist of it is this: is for some reason God saw fit to put me in this role as a facilitator
Hmm.
of other people's paths,
Hmm. Ooh.
talents, dreams, journeys. And there's a scripture that says greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his brother.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So if I feel like my goal is to seek the greater love in life, because that's the pathway of God.
Yeah.
God is love. That is what we always need and want to align ourselves with, right? So if I'm on a path of greater love, and greater love has no man to lay down his life for his brother, okay, then my job is one of a facilitator. Okay, so I may have something that you need, and God will bring those people to me. Doesn't mean I handle it well all the time. Doesn't mean I don't want to kill people sometimes. Doesn't mean I don't want to fight you sometimes. I'm from Detroit, So it's like, it's not that. It's not that you're perfected in your walk. What it is in walking, there is perfecting work taking place. And the time that I needed to be in the trenches of motherhood was also time that I was honing and building character. I was building a sense of my personhood as it relates to my husband, my children, my God, my friends. So I was just growing in maturity, and until the right time that I could come in this space, take all that I've learned and I'm still learning, and then apply it to the things that I do. So on the one hand, yes, it's a creative endeavor, and I'm a writer, I'm a director, I'm a creative force of nature. But I'm a creative force in nature also because I'm a mother, and I have procreated. Like, I'm like, beat me creating. Anybody beat me creating, like, that's what I realized. Like, when I had these kids, it's like, and as you know, it's like, oh my gosh, we brought life.
Yes.
We brought life into this. How humbling is that?
Yes.
How humbling is that? Well, I feel that every single time that I work on a different project, that I'm breathing life. I'm bringing life into the storytelling in whatever way that God sees fit. And it's not always like to create a great work of art, because you can't top creating a child, which is like art and then some, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you harness that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of understanding of what your creative powers are, and you parlay that to something else that you bring life to? That's how I can describe what I do when I'm in the director's chair. I'm constantly looking to create life and making it as beautiful and as lovely as I can make it.
Wow. That's powerful. I mean, that kind of brings to mind your, like, I mean, I know as a mother, it's ebb and flows of, there's so many different experiences and even daily things that you're going through with your child, that you can sometimes lose your fitting, and you're 20 years ahead of me, or however many years, 20 years ahead of me. How has the process been? I mean, before you got married, and then even through the process of having each child, how has the process been of finding you, knowing yourself as this creator, but also maintaining and showing up as yourself in rooms? How have you done that? What is that?
Well, it's like, if I were to talk to my younger self, I would say to her to calm down. Calm down, because you're not going to be able to do everything at once, and you can't have it all at the same time. You cannot. How about, you just cannot? So breathe and be in the moment and enjoy where you are on the way to where you're going, because the path is moving. Time is moving. It's going somewhere. So you won't be in the same space forever. But if you don't enjoy it in the moment, you will be at your next place and you will look back and regret that you did not take those moments to heart because you will never get them again. And I do that once a week.
Wow.
I look at baby pictures of my children. And I think I asked my husband this like last night. I'm like, did I stop and enjoy this? I would look at baby pictures of my children. I'm telling you, I go back and I look at videos of them and I'm sitting there in tears,
Right.
asking myself, did I stop and enjoy this?
Ugh.
I mean, I asked that so much to the point my husband's like, look, one day you're going to look back at today and ask, did you enjoy them today? And you sitting here trying to reminisce about when they were 1 and 2 years old, you know? So I'm just like, do not forsake what's happening now, because 10, 20 years from now will be a memory that you don't want to regret and question. Did I make the most of it? Because I was too focused on being ahead of me instead of being present in the moment. Do not be that mom.
Ugh. You talking to me. Come on. I'm at the beginning of the stage. That is, I love that do you sit and reflect and like journal? What is it? What do you do? You say you do that.
Well, I have memorialized like my children on like video and photographs. So I'm telling you, I will sit here and go through all those videos and I'm watching them and I'm just in this phase of like thankfulness and gratefulness that God saw fit to entrust me with these kids, and just praying that I do right by them, praying that I do right by them. See, there's so much that could go wrong if we sit in here whining about like, oh, I really should be doing this. It's like, you should be smacked. Like I should have been smacked sometimes. And that's what I would say to young moms. This is going to pass. You live long enough, it's going to pass. And the world is not going to forget about you. In fact, the world needs mature, creatively cultivated minds who have experienced something by serving other people, even your children. It's in the service of others that you will get your blessing.
Wow.
So you don't look at it like work or like doing the lesser thing. Can we give mothers proper honor in our culture? And I know we have Mother's Day.
Right. Our one day.
I know we have,
Our one day.
it's when you think of a filmmaker, do you think of mothers?
Right. Yeah.
Look at me. This is what a filmmaker looks like. And what happens in our culture, it's what's glorified is you don't see no filmmakers with children.
You don't see children nowhere. Exactly.
I mean, unless it's with some men or actors, and they always, I'm telling you, this is what a filmmaker also looks like. You understand? So and I'm not going to say, I don't know about if I can do it, you can do it too. I don't know. If you're going to walk in my shoes, I'll tell you what I did, but your journey is your own. Do not forsake where you are. To everything, there is a season and a time and purpose for everything under the sun. Be in your season and don't forsake the requirements of that season, because that season's going to pass. Because why? Seasons change. And in your next season, you better hope you did right by your assignment in this season. Okay? Because then you will look back and say, I didn't do that right. You don't want to sit in that. You better love on that. Listen, our Black kids, you can't love them enough.
Right.
You can't love them enough.
I believe that.
There's a lot of correction that we need to do historically. We need mothers who are present. We need mothers who are servants, who have a servant's heart. Now, if you ain't called to be a mom, like, don't feel guilty about that. Don't do, because I need my single friends. Actually, I need my single friends to come and babysit my kids. So I thank God for that. So this, I'm not talking to you. It's not to make people feel bad, but somebody raised your behind too. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are present so that we can grow and nurture these children in ways that perhaps we were not, and so that we can have healthy and whole Black women and men who know how to communicate and emotionally be present and love, and then raise the next generation. And we need to start using that as a healing path for all the things that need to be corrected from the path that the people who perpetrated that on us have not addressed. So we got a lot on our hands, but the least of which should be self-inflicted guilt because you have to be a mom. It's actually a privilege for which many of my friends have been denied, who wanted to get pregnant and have kids, and they could not or did not because maybe they waited too late, and now it's harder or impossible, you know. So and I'm talking like this because your format is about mothers. Like typically when I'm talking about filmmaking, I don't go this hard on what it means to be a mom, but since you asked, you know, here we are.
That's what we need. That's why I put this whole thing together, because I want to hear, and I mean, you have so many nuggets you just said in that last question. So I'm really excited for what, and people, if you can see in the chat, people are really almost amening in the chat section stuff that you said. How do you feel? Can you talk about your role as a woman, as a mother in such a male-dominated industry as directing? How do you maintain your own voice? How do you authentically, again, it's sort of as I asked the last question, how do you show up in a room as you, not as just like, oh, I'm the woman, hear me roar, but how do you
honestly, like I'm old enough where I don't even know how to be anybody else but myself. So that will come in time and in through circumstances where you do it wrong and you're like, I never want to do that again. And you start to self-correct. So I say this and I'm not trying to demean our gender. I don't feel like a female filmmaker per se. I just feel like a director and I have a job to do and I just need to get it done. Now, there's some level of maybe sensitivity and maybe some level of female for insight that I can bring to the storytelling. But at the end of the day, like I was watching that Michael Jordan series, like I'm like in my head, I'm Michael Jordan. Like I'm like, you got a job to do, you gotta do it at the highest levels, and you don't take no for an answer. Now that has more to do with personality than gender. Does that make sense? Because I have seen like dumb men in my shoes, and they're never trying to figure out how do I do this as a man. They just go
doing it right.
You know, and you see enough of that foolishness, you realize like it's not about your gender, it's about your preparation and your level of astuteness and perhaps confidence in what it is that you do and how it is that you work, and that just comes from experience. So I would say to a lot of women, like while it may be intimidating, just know over time, the more you do it, the more experience you get, the more comfortable you're going to feel. And then after a while, if you're freaking Shonda Rhimes, you ain't got to explain why you're a woman in a male dominated space. You're freaking Shonda Rhimes. You get it?
Right.
So it's like just keep your blinders on and focus on the goal, and just know you're gonna get beat up a lot. You're gonna get beat up a lot because you're a woman, but you'll get beat up more because you're stupid. So just don't be stupid should be the goal, and try to gain as much competence and direction for yourself in terms of who you are and what you want and what you won't settle for and what you won't do. Because along with that comes opportunities to be compromised, and you just got to figure out like what your limits are and what you're going to do when you're faced with a fork in the road, you know. And that comes a lot as well. And so what comes in handy is what we do as mothers, all those lessons that we teach through our children about doing the right things, about, you know, if Eric jumps off the bridge, you're gonna jump off the bridge too. So see, all those lessons that we're enforcing in our children, well, now we're held to a higher accountability, right? So you're gonna walk in that because that's what you teach, and you're the teacher, you know. So now we function in that role in a leadership capacity, and you got to see what you're made of. And nobody's perfect, you know. Some of the best lessons that have stuck with me have come from failing.
Wow.
I mean, listen, we could do a whole session on failure and how that builds character. So it's like just embrace the experiences that you're going to have in life. Some of them you might win, most of them you might lose, but all of it is necessary to build who you're becoming, you know. And I'm just a witness to all of that, you know.
Come on. That goes into, I got just a few more questions for you. How do you and how have you dealt with failure along your journey? What is the one thing you would say to yourself as a mother?
Failure.
Yes, failure. How have
Okay.
you dealt with failure?
Get a good therapist.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, because in our community of Black people, we have been conditioned to tough it out, especially Black women.
Yes.
Like we bear the brunt of a lot of systemic issues on our shoulders, and we probably have not been given tools to deal with those kinds of issues and pressures. So I know I haven't been, and like I'm an experimentation of what not to do, you know, or, you know, just like when you do mess up, here are some tools, you know. And I found like those tools that come from speaking with professionals who do this for a living have really helped me to contextualize experiences and thoughts and feelings in ways that help frame what the true narrative is and not the one that I'm making up in my head because I'm all in my feelings.
Right.
So I think a great therapist helps. And then in lieu of a therapist, maybe great friends, books, you know, just we're constantly growing. Like nobody's done. We're not done until we go to the grave. So I feel like that just introspection. And I'm the type of person where like if I do something foul and I hurt somebody's feelings, like I truly want to have a discussion about it so that we can be on the same page and act in love. Now, it takes two to tango.
Right.
Like I can be that person, but if you're not able to come to the table and say, I'm sorry for what I did and this is how I messed up, then it's a one-way conversation. And that's another thing that you got to learn. Like, I can't mess with people like that, you know, and it's sometimes something that's helpful is this. It's okay to let people go.
Ooh, hard lesson. It's true though. It's true. Hard lesson. How do you and your husband, I mean, you guys are a really unique couple that you of course have a home together, but you've also been walking this journey with your career together. What is that even like to keep and maintain that relationship through?
Well, remember like when like so my husband started working as a studio executive. That's when I was at home with my kids. And before that, we were both stay-at-home parents because we had our own production company. So for my oldest son, for the first 10 years of his life, he had a stay-at-home mom and dad.
Wow.
Yeah, so we just kind of learned to work together early on. And then when it became a necessity for him to have to go and work in the corporate setting, then it's like, okay, I honestly, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do this by myself. Like, seriously, I was like a stay at home mom for 4 kids for the first time 10 years after I became a mother. I've never home with them by myself. I always have my husband. So it was a transition. So this is what you do in life. Like sometimes one person has to lead and somebody has to hold down the fort.
Yeah.
And conversely, when I travel for my work, I have to leave. He has to hold down the fort.
I love it.
So that's what a partnership looks like. And we have the same goals and we both love each other and we want each other to be our best selves. We love our family and we want each of our family members to thrive and be their best selves. And then if those are our goals, you just go with it. And then what happens is life happens and stuff is thrown at you, right? But we have these similar goals, right? So we're going to protect each other and protect the family, and we're going to weather the storms like together because we have these same goals, you know? So I think
Look for if we're looking for a boo at the moment. A man who has the same goals.
true, but the first and foremost should be like, this is what I know to be true about my husband is that he has always loved and championed me
I love it.
since the day I met him.
I love it.
And honestly, if not for that, I don't know that I'd be with him because I was no less ambitious on day one. Okay. And then the day I met him, I just knew that he was this extraordinarily driven leader, you know? And I thought I could do something with that. You know, he has not changed. He's still that guy, in the core of him, So it's just like, I love watching him win.
Wow.
And when he loses, I'm there to help him back up. And the reverse is true. He loves watching me win. And God knows Michael Swanson has picked me up off the floor many a days, So it's like when the love is great, it's great. But when the lows are low, it's like just embrace that and know that's part of the journey too. So you want to make sure that we have the same goals and we have each other's backs.
Love it. Okay, I got one last question for you, then two just throw at you. Give me your first answer off the top of your head.
Mm-hmm.
The last one I want to know is what is the greatest lesson you are learning in this season of your life?
The greatest lesson that I'm learning in this season of my life is that I truly have no control over anything.
Wow.
And it's made even more prescient in this pandemic.
Yeah.
Nobody has control over anything. And I learned that. I've been learning that this season, and it kind of runs counterintuitive with the role of being a director. The director controls every element of the story, everything that you see in a movie. I made that choice.
Wow.
I'm controlling everything. So it's like you're telling a control freak that you have no control.
Let go of control. Ooh.
So it's really trying to balance that and respect that because it's just true. So I'm learning to just be still and not be so reactionary, and not try to make things happen and just be, and then watch God move.
Love it. Man, you got so many nuggets. I can't wait to rewatch this. My final two questions, they're just real quick ones, just whatever comes off the top of your head. The first question is, if you met your child later in life, say their 40s or 50s, what would you want them to know about you and your journey?
Mm. Well, I would want them to know that there were a lot of relatives and ancestors who deposited so much into me to make me who I am. And in doing so, that allowed me to make you who you are and to give you what you had and to support you in what you're doing. So no matter where you go in life, and no matter how you get, thank your ancestors and thank the people whose shoulders that you rest on, for without which you can't be where you are and you can't go where you're going. And don't you ever forget that. And in our collective consciousness, that is how we take care of one another. Because you have to understand, somebody lived in service to you. So it is incumbent upon you to live in the service of others, but especially others in your own community. So I drill that home all the time.
I love it. Last one, last question. I promise. I know we've been talking for a while. Who are I had the privilege of watching. Why I forget her. Obama. Michelle Obama's. I not only read the book, but I also watched the documentary. I don't know if you got to see that, but I love that they ended the documentary with asking everyone, "Who are you becoming?" So, Christine Swanson, I want to know as our final question for the interview, who are you becoming?
Well, I think what did Michelle say? Let me see. What did she say? I didn't see it yet.
Her. They were asking all the people who have been going to her different tours.
Okay.
And that was the thing.
I'm becoming I think the mature and fully realized daughter of Milton Ashford, who was a single Black man who raised me in Detroit, Michigan. Wow. And the daughter of, my mom's name is Pope Chu Pak. So she's Korean and I'm Blasian. So they met in the military and they divorced and she left me with my father. But she's very instrumental in making me who I am as well. So for many years, I've been trying to figure out this blend, being Blasian but being culturally Black, but also having been raised in an Asian culture. So I think I'm becoming the daughter of those two people in her fullness. And what does that mean? I think time will tell.
All right.
I think time will tell. And a lot of that comes out in the things that I'm saying and the stories that I'm telling and in the life that I'm living now with a little bit more intention as it pertains to my career, but with no less fervor than I've lived since day one. So I think I'm becoming like an even more passionate server of my brother and sister, for whom greater love has no man than to lay down her life. So that is who I'm becoming, that person who lays down her life for the love of my brothers and my sisters. So I think that's who I'm becoming. What does that look like? Time will tell.
I am so honored to hear your story, to once again hear all the nuggets and wisdom you have gained, not only as a award-winning filmmaker, but as a mother, as a wife, as a just amazing woman. I'm so thankful that you came to talk and chat with me. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And everyone who is on the chat listening, again, please give a round of applause. They put the little hand claps in the chat. Give a round of applause for Christine Swanson. Thank you so much for giving
Thank
me.
you so much, Aretha.
I can't wait to see who you are becoming, who you
Me
will be.
too. Me too. We'll see. Time will tell.
I will tell.
All right,
Thank
take
you
care.
again, Christine.
Thank you.
Everybody, take care. If you haven't, again, follow Christine Swanson on Facebook, and then that's what I was going to mention. She has her All About You. They just did their 20th anniversary. I think it's on Black Films. Is that what it is?
Yeah, but you can find it on Amazon Prime. All
Okay.
About You, All About Us. It's on Amazon Prime. The Clark Sisters movie is playing on rotation, but that's on Amazon, Hulu, and all the streaming formats. So, and I'm C Swanson 44 on social media.
There we go. So follow Christine as you see an amazing story. Can't wait to see who she already is, but who she's becoming. Thank you so much,
Thank
Christine.
you. All right, take care. Bye bye.
All right, everybody. See you later.